Welcome to today's Explainer. I am your host, but for this one, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm actually going to step into the shoes of an ancient figure and speak directly to you as Enoch. Yeah, that Enoch, the guy tucked away in the ancient genealogical records of Genesis chapter 5. Today I'm inviting you into a very personal memoir. It's one that takes the ancient history of my life and connects it right to your modern professional experience. We're going to explore what it literally means to find eternity in the middle of your workplace. Let's get into it.
Okay, so here's a quote to kick things off. I lived for 365 years, but I never died. Now I know what you're thinking. To you, living 3.5 centuries sounds absolutely insane, right? Like a literal eternity? But back in my era, 365 years was actually considered an incredibly short lifespan. I was basically middle-aged. Yet despite having this kind of short life by ancient standards, my life had an ultimate outcome that bypassed the grave entirely. So how exactly did that happen? Let's find out.
Section 1. The Era of Centuries. Life before the Flood. To really understand my story, we first need to look at the world I was born into. Imagine a time when humans lived for nearly a millennium. It was a world completely and totally removed from the fast-paced, high-stress, burnout-inducing modern reality that you're stuck in today. I mean, time just moves differently when you have centuries to build a life. Take a look at this number, 969. That is the exact age of my son, Methuselah. He was the oldest recorded human to ever live. Can you even begin to imagine a career, a family, or a daily routine spanning almost 1,000 years? It entirely flips your perspective on what you can actually achieve and what really matters.
And because we lived for centuries, our lives heavily overlapped. It's like a giant puzzle. Adam, the literal first man, was still alive for hundreds of years after my ancestors were born. My son Methuselah lived right up to the very year of the Great Flood. We walked the earth concurrently with our earliest forebears. It created this incredibly shared generational experience. The memories of Eden, they weren't just ancient myths to us. They were stories told around the fire by the people who were actually there.
Section 2. The Science of Longevity. How did we live so long? So I'm sure you're wondering, how on earth did we physically live for hundreds of years? Well, our world was drastically different on an environmental level. What your modern science is just now understanding is that the pre-flood Earth featured profound environmental shielding. It was kind of like a protective atmospheric bubble from harmful UV and cosmic rays. Plus, there was an absolute absence of modern pollution, meaning those genetic mutations that compound in your bodies today simply didn't exist yet. Down at a microscopic level, cellular apoptosis, programmed cell death, was much slower. But the absolute most crucial factor was the divine regulation of an enzyme you guys are only recently beginning to figure out.
Your scientists call it telomerase. It's an enzyme that acts like a protective cap on the end of your chromosomes, repairing DNA as your cells divide. The research suggests God purposefully regulated this biological mechanism. And why would he do that? Well, because allowing sinful, fallen humans to live forever with perfectly repairing DNA would have been an absolute catastrophe. A world where evil, greed, and violence could compound endlessly in a single individual for millennia, that would result in unimaginable corruption. So our lifespans were eventually capped as an act of profound divine mercy.
Section 3. The Inevitable. He died. The bell that tolls for all.
I want to shift the tone here for a second, because despite having all these centuries to live, to build, and to work, almost everyone in my historical record faced the exact same grim conclusion. And he died. It's written in the ancient texts over and over again. Honestly, I want you to hear that phrase like a heavy, tolling bell. It points out the ultimate emptiness of a long life. Even if you live for 900 years, if it's lived without eternal purpose, what's the point? You can build a massive legacy, accumulate wealth for literally centuries, but eventually, you die.
8 separate times. That exact phrase echoes 8 separate times in the genealogical record of Genesis chapter 5. Adam lived 930 years, and he died. Seth lived 912 years, and he died. Enoch lived 905 years, and he died. It serves as this inescapable reminder of humanity's fragile, fallen state. Death reigned over absolutely everyone.
And he died. It was this rhythmic, unstoppable march. It is the great equalizer that strips away all worldly accomplishments. No matter how many centuries these guys had to establish power, forge empires, or invent new technologies, the ending for everyone was completely 100% identical.
Section 4. Two very different paths. Cain's civilization versus Seth's faith.
So confronted with all of that time and that totally inevitable end, humanity split into two camps. On the left side, you've got the descendants of Cain. They spent their centuries aggressively pursuing civilizational progress. They built cities, they forged weapons of bronze and iron, and they chased worldly achievements, often boasting of violent vengeance. But you know what? They ultimately found spiritual emptiness. On the right side, you have my lineage, the descendants of Seth. Our path was completely different. We chose to call upon the name of the Lord. We pursued a spiritual legacy, seeking ultimate peace and comfort in the midst of a very fallen world. Two different paths, two very different legacies.
Section 5. Walking with God. Intimacy amidst the mundane.
And this brings me to my own story. I looked at the empty pursuits of the world around me, and I heard that tolling bell of death waiting for all of us. I chose to live my 365 years completely differently. But the crucial point here is this. My deep spirituality did not require me to abandon society. I didn't retreat to some mountain to live as an isolated monk. I had sons and daughters. I worked daily to provide for my family, the whole shebang. My life looked very, very ordinary from the outside. The radical difference was that I maintained constant, unbroken communion with God, right in the middle of that busy family life. I walked with Him, step by step, day by day.
And because of that unbroken connection with the Creator, I experienced a completely different climax to my life. I was taken. Actually, scratch that. I didn't experience the tolling bell of death at all. After walking with God for 300 years, He simply took me. I bypassed the grave entirely. I was transitioned directly into eternity. It was a divine proof to my generation, and to yours for sure, that there is a hope that defeats death entirely.
Section 6. Eternity in the workplace. A mirror for the modern professional.
Now, let's break the timeline for a minute. I want to step out of the ancient past and speak directly to your daily grind today. You might think we have absolutely nothing in common, but your modern life isn't as different from my ancient experience as you might assume. Look at the left, modern burnout. Today, so many of you chase temporary corporate achievements. You exhaust yourselves working 80-hour weeks for a promotion or a legacy that will eventually fade. Let's be honest, that's really no different than the empty city building of Cain's descendants. But look at the right, eternal value. You have the exact same opportunity I had. You can turn your daily tasks into acts of worship, cultivating a spiritual legacy that literally outlasts time itself.
So here is the big question. How do you walk with God in a busy, modern workplace? If you are a burned-out professional seeking deeper meaning, this is the absolutely crucial question you need to answer today. How do you find eternity sitting at your desk?
Well, here's how you turn this into a reality. First, align your daily ambitions with His eternal purpose. Second, don't run ahead out of blind ambition and don't lag behind out of laziness, just match His pacing in your career. Third, and honestly I think this is key, turn mundane emails, spreadsheets, and endless meetings into moments of silent communion. Talk to Him while you type. And fourth, always value your spiritual integrity over temporary promotions. This is practically how you emulate my lifestyle in your modern office.
My plea to you is simply this. Stop chasing the empty tolling bell of worldly success and start walking with God in the daily grind. As someone who personally saw what hundreds of years of empty achievement looks like, I challenge you to reconsider exactly where you are investing your finite time and energy.
Finally, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. When the record of your life is read, when your modern genealogy is written, will it just end with a list of your worldly achievements and your corporate resume? Or will it say you walked with God? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. I really hope my ancient memoir sparks a deeply eternal perspective in your modern life. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep walking.